Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe and welcome to the last week, or the last video of Gothtober, because it's not even going to be a full week. We are currently on day 26 and I took a little break from vlogging because I plan to do a lot of vlogging in November as well, but I'm going to catch you up on my reading because in that gap between when I've seen you last I did a little bit of reading. So the first thing that I did was I just read the last 25 pages of Monstress volume 5. I don't really have much more to say beyond what I said in my last vlog. Everything still stands. This was fantastic. I had such a good time and I've had a, generally speaking, quite a mediocre reading month, and this reminds me that there are good books out there. So I gave this one 5 stars and it was a new favourite. This one ticks off my anything but prose prompt. Then also continued on with my current read that I've been kind of trawling through in the past week or so, and that's Dune by Herbert. I'm actually about 130-ish pages from the end, so I'm really hoping that I can finish this off this month. In no way does it contribute to my Gothtober prompts. I've only got one more left, but I do still want to finish this, and it would be nice to finish it in this last vlog because it would just tie up my reading for last month. It'd be a big book off my shelf and I would be happy. I think in my last vlog I was talking about how much I was enjoying this. That has definitely changed. I'm enjoying it a lot less. As people said, I've met more female characters, and yes, they are so poorly represented and have so few good options in life. So I don't actually really like the female representation. I do think the story has started to drag quite a bit. It's gotten very slow paced for no good reason, and even though I just love the world building, now that we are settled into the world and the world is kind of established, we're still learning a lot, but the world is more or less established. What needs to carry on this book from here on out is good characterization, and you need to love the characters to want to continue with the series. But unfortunately I don't think the character building is done very well, and more I'm finding the dialogue just stale. Nobody talks like this. Nobody talks as if they're having a deep philosophical discussion every single moment of their lives, and now the dialogue is grating on me. I don't particularly love or dislike any characters, so it's going a bit more downhill again. Last but not least, my last prompt for Gothtober is Sentient House. So I started reading She Is a Haunting by Tran this morning, and I've read 100 pages? No, I've read 96 pages, so almost 100 pages. This one is set in Vietnam and it's about a girl who is bisexual, and she is not really close with her dad at all. Her dad left them, but she really needs money for the university she wants to go to, and her dad says, I'll pay it as long as you come and spend time with me in Vietnam. So she has to go and spend time with her dad, and her younger sibling is willing to do that either which way, and she's helping the dad kind of renovate this big old house so that it can be used as a bed and breakfast, and she really doesn't like him. She's really reluctant doing this, and the house is supposed to be sentient and haunted. I think I'm so disappointed. I am not enjoying this at all. I didn't enjoy this from page 10. I wasn't clicking with the writing style. Writing style is again something very personal, but the way that this was written, I was just like, it's a bit messy. It's really messy. In the same paragraph she'll go from talking about one thing to talking about a next, to going to a thought, to going to an action, to going to something else. And if you break it down in terms of writing as a writing style, that just doesn't work because it's just messy. It's stringing things together that don't necessarily blend into one paragraph, and it's leaving me like I can follow the book, but as a reader your mind is just starting in a lot of places and it doesn't add up. I also feel like the author is throwing in a lot of things that she wants to have commentary on, that she wants to point out, like, this is bad, this is good, this is not how it should be, and she's like pushing a lot of commentary but not weaving it and subtly into the story, so it really feels force-fed to you. And speaking of force-fed, I also feel like it's doing a lot of tell not show. Like, all the backstory we're told, loads of things that she could take a moment to show us, we're being told it instead, and that tell not show is really grating on my nerves. I don't particularly like our main character. I find her quite unlikable. I think I've met the love interest, but I don't really feel any which way about them. I really wanted to enjoy this because it's like queer and set in Vietnam and sentient house stories. We don't have enough diverse ones, but this is just not chalking up to what I wanted it to be. So I'm at page 94 and I'm thinking of switching to audiobook because how else am I going to get through this? I don't really want to DNF this because it's my last prompt for Gothtober. I've got plans for my other Sentient House books on my shelf. I just want to round off Gothtober with this book. So we have reading sprints tonight, so I'm going to be audiobooking and playing Sudoku at the same time. I think I'm about 80 Sudoku pieces away from my goal of how many Sudokus I want to play this year, which only became a goal halfway through the year because I'd played so much. I am addicted to Sudoku. So addicted. I am going to be making us a curry, a vegan curry. It's a curry I haven't made before. I've got all the little bits for it, and I'm not stressed about the fact that we have sprints in a short period of time because it's from the 20-minute vegan cookbook, and I trust that it will only take 20 minutes. So let's cook together and then read together. Sprints are finished, and as you can see, I actually decided not to listen to the audiobook. I decided to read it physically. So I was reading She is a Haunting, and if you can believe it, I actually finished the book in those sprints. I was listening to the audiobook while I made dinner. I made this fantastic vegan curry that had chickpea and tender stem broccoli in it, and the sauce was fantastically flavored, and then it was with like pompadons and pomegranate and lime, and the sweet and the savory was just mixing to blend perfectly. I am so proud of that curry. But yes, I was listening while I was reading through audiobook version, and in that process I was thinking, I really still don't like the book. But then I finished the book during our reading sprints, and I have to say the ending got better. I liked what it amounted to, and it had some really creepy insect horror bits. So if you're not a fan of insect horror, this book does include it, and I wasn't expecting that. I was fully here for the sentient house elements, but I actually think, although it's sentient house elements, it's more strong on the ghosts, haunting vibes and the insect horror than the sentient house as a result of everything else. So it surprised me in the direction that it went. I couldn't predict this book. A lot was happening, like a lot happened at the end, and actually a lot was happening throughout the book that I just didn't predict. So it's got unpredictability going for it, and it's got the insect horror going for it if you like that kind of thing. But otherwise I still stand by what I said about the writing style just being a bit too messy and the story just being very jumpy. And so it's not a favourite of mine. I do think it improved and redeemed itself towards the end, but it's still a middle of the road read for me. And that counts for my sentient house Gothtober prompt, which means I am done. I've completed every single one of my Gothtober prompts, which makes me really happy. And I could end the vlog here, but we haven't done tea yet, and also I've got some really exciting and fun things happening this weekend that I want to show you. So I think I'm going to keep this vlog going until Sunday evening, when everything's wrapped up pretty much in terms of live shows for Gothtober, and all the fun things that are happening this weekend are done. What was that? I'm so angry. I'm so angry at the end of this book. I'm so angry. I finished Dune. I'm so upset. I did not like the ending of the book at all. I really did not like that ending. Final line of the book was the most patronizing thing I've read in a very long time. It was like, I know what I'm doing is not a feminist, but let me say this one line and that kind of makes it okay, right? Question mark? No, it doesn't. It does not. The final line was horrible. And the second half of this book is where the female representation goes to die, and that's why I just didn't like the second half. What this book doesn't do well is character development or character writing at all, and that's really, really sad and disappointing, because it does have some of those Game of Thrones elements to it where anybody can die at any moment, and I realise now that having read the whole book, whenever somebody significant died, I did not care because I didn't care about any of the characters. And the pacing is really off. There were parts when I was enjoying it because the world building was good and then the plot things were happening, but then nothing would happen for a long time. And then stuff would happen and I'd be interested for a bit, and then nothing would happen for a long time. So I also think the pacing is really off. This was a big 500-page book, and I have determined that I will not be continuing the series. I do hope they continue making films out of them because the world intrigues me, but I can't be bothered to spend my time reading 500+ page books when I could just watch a 3-hour-long film, which is admittedly a long film to watch, but still faster than reading this book, which makes me angry because the representation is bad. So that's that one done. So I think what's the next thing you're going to see is that I'm going to go to a Halloween party in Sotheran's bookshop. This is in central London and it is one of the oldest antique bookshops in London, and it's going to be Halloween themed. I have not decided what I'm going to be reading next. We shall see. We shall see. I need to process my anger before I decide. It's the 28th of October and today it's MCM Comic Con, so there's more than one Comic Con that happens in a year, and I'm very excited to be invited to go to this one as well. And in this one I'm going to have a quick chance to interview Cassandra Clare, so I'm very excited to do that. But before we go to Comic Con, I just wanted to let you know about recent occurrences. So yesterday was our Gothtober watch along and we watched the film There's Someone Inside Your House, which is on Netflix, and it's inspired by the Stephanie Perkins book. It was an absolutely terrible film. None of the character motivations made sense. So many of the characters were flat and 2D. The mystery was ridiculous and it couldn't even be solved by the characters. The killer had to demask themselves. I enjoyed the first 2 killings quite a bit and I thought they were good and we were off to a good start, but the film just went downhill from there. The characters were so unlikable. Our main character had no brain cells. Lots of them had no brain cells. It was just a mess, and our live show where we discussed that film and our thoughts on it is linked below, where you can just see us outright rant about it because that's how we felt. But we also had reading sprints after that until midnight, and I started A Taste of, I should maybe hold it here, yes, A Taste of Darkness, which is 13 chilling stories to savor. They are horror short stories and they're by a variety of authors. So I've read the first 3.5. So I read Rosie Talbot's short story, who you may also know as Child over on TikTok. Her story was really good and I liked how that one had to do with like there's something in the woods. But my favourite short story so far has to be Amy McCaw's one, and that had to do with a sentient house. As you know, I'm a big fan of sentient houses. I really liked how this sentient house was handled and I think that was a well-written short story. I really like Amy McCaw's writing style. And now I'm halfway through the Maria Kuznia one, which has a fairy tale-esque spin to it, because I think that author writes fairy tale retellings. So it's all kind of in each author's style, but I like how each one focuses on something that's a different horror trope, like a sentient house, dolls, in the woods. Every single one is slightly different and I'm liking that. Then this morning I started reading Rayleigh Mann in the Company of Monsters by Ciannon Smart. So I did DNF, which is Steeped in Gold, but I thought I would give an author a second chance in a different age audience, because sometimes authors write other age audiences better than others. So I thought I would give it another chance. This one is a middle grade about this boy who discovers that he is the son of the bogeyman, which is a Jamaican folklore monster, and the bogeyman is missing. So they're kind of engaging him into the world of monsters that he's never been in before to find out if he may be half monster himself, but also how he can help find his father, which I just love the concept of. I'm always loving reading British, Jamaican and Jamaican authors and just seeing more and more about the like mythology and the folklore coming to the front with some of the magical stories. I will say though that I've read almost a quarter of this book and I'm not that engaged. I'm not enjoying it as much as I'd hoped to. It's fine, but it's just not pulling me in, and it's hard because I don't actually know what this book is doing wrong. Like, the world building is there, the dialogue is there, everything's set up in a way that should be set up in a middle grade book. I'm just not digging it, but I'm hoping to have a bit more of an emotional connection to it as I continue reading. We do need to choose a tea, and this is tea 24. It's the last tea in my tea calendar. It's the nighttime tea, so I'm going to save it for the evening, but what it says about it is only Santa need be awake, because it's an advent calendar. These are the herbs to magic you to Christmas Day, to help you sleep, which I think is a very smart one to put at the end there. I'm going to give it a go and I'll let you know what I think. But also I am aware that the fact is you can start getting your tea advent calendars now. It's advent calendar season, so if you are considering getting a Pukka tea calendar, I hope you enjoy it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think of them. On Instagram I have a tea highlight with all of my thoughts and feelings on them, and I will be getting myself another tea advent calendar from a different company so I can continue trying teas in my vlogs, but wait and see which company I decided to go with.
Yes.
We're very familiar with your fantastic world building. What was one of your favourite aspects to create about the world?
Oh, I think one of my favorite aspects was to create the sort of 12 charter families that rule Castellane and figure out, you know, sort of who each of them are and what are the special like characteristics they have and what kind of characters they are, what kind of people they are, whether they're good people or evil people. And honestly, in the world of Castellane, no one is really so much good or evil as they are sort of morally gray. Mm-hmm. So it was just really fun to figure out the relationships between them.
And do you have a favorite character?
I think I had the most fun with the Ragpicker King because he's such a secretive character. We don't really know what motivates him. We don't know why he does what he does, and we don't know where he comes from, where he was born, you know, and I just love characters that have lots of secrets.
Yes, they're the very best kind. And this is your move from like young adult to adult. So what was the most enjoyable thing about switching age audience?
I think for me it was interesting to be able to address a different life stage that the characters were in. Definitely with Shadowhunters, you know, I love writing about that time period where people are sort of figuring out who they are and they're, you know, going from being children to being adults. But there's something also really interesting and enriching about being able to address older characters who are having different questions, you know. Should I get married? Who am I going to marry? What's my career? What's my identity? What's my destiny? And so all of those questions that are sort of more about being an adult were really interesting because I hadn't been able to address them before.
Mm-hmm. And my last question is, if you had to describe Swordcatcher in 3 words, what 3 words would you choose? It's a bit of a tricky one.
Oh, swashbuckling, romantic, cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. Okay.
I know, that's so cruel, right?
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Hello, so it's definitely after dinner because the time right now is 11:20 on Halloween. Oh, I don't really celebrate Halloween, but I was out tonight and I got back in about 20 minutes ago. So I'm gonna have a cup of tea And then I'm not going to go to bed because I've got something else to do at midnight, which you'll hear about shortly. But I'm going to have this tea. I've actually had Booker's nighttime teas before. If some of you, I guess some of you might know, some of you might not know, but I am a long time insomniac, which means I've tried all sorts of things to help me out, and actually my sleep is the most stable it's been in the past few months than it's ever been for multiple reasons. But one of the things that I did try was having the Booker nighttime teas to help me get to sleep, and I wouldn't say it worked because my insomnia was not that easy to solve by drinking a drink and it would all be done and dusted, but it was nice for a while. So I've had this before. And it really so clearly tastes like chamomile. I do think their nighttime tea has chamomile heavily in it. It's also got lavender and elderflower from reading the instructions or the manual. The ingredients, that's what I'm looking for. It's harder to taste out the lavender and elderflower singularly, but elderflower is quite a gentle flavour in my opinion. So I think the chamomile wins out here, but the lavender is definitely present and I can't detect the elderflower, but I assume it's in there. It does blend wonderfully though, and it tastes soothing. It tastes like just the kind of thing you want before bed. With that, I'm going to finish this cup of tea and then climb into bed at least. But thank you so much for joining me for these Gothtober weekly vlogs. I hope you've had fun coming behind the scenes. Comic-Con was lovely with Cassandra Clare. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you could meet any author, dead or alive, who would you choose to meet? Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!